This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have the founder of Marketing Mate, which is James Shockley, and I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But first, James, how are you?
I'm good, man. Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to come to my show and to just share some value. So let's kick it off with a quick introduction about who you are and what your marketing does or marketing agency does.
Well, so we're actually a software company. So I have a marketing agency, which I've run for about 7 years now. And Marketing Mate, which is actually a software, it is a business automation software. So the best way to describe it is if you've ever tried to set up a CRM system, if you've ever tried to set up any internal system where you get frustrated, you don't know half the features, you get referred to a YouTube video, but you still can't figure it out. It's so complicated and frustrating sometimes that you end up paying for it and then you don't even end up using it and you go back to your old habits, right? What I do is I tailor make systems for businesses using a system that I've developed personally and embed it within a software tool and provide it to you. So it's a software tool that you'll actually want to use. Think of it as like a digital, rather than a virtual assistant, it's a digital assistant, right? That can still complete manual tasks that you would typically do, but now your whole life is automated.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is the reason that it's called Marketing Mate is because it's mating, right? It's getting together with the marketing, right? Is that correct?
So it's actually, think of it like when you go and network with someone, you're marketing yourself. When you're marketing online, you're bringing in leads, right? When you're, at a coffee shop and you just meet someone and you give them your business card, you're marketing yourself as well. What Marketing Mate is doing is it's being your friend while you're marketing anywhere. And it's organizing all of your contacts. It's automating your calendar. It's automating your sales process. It is your friend. I use the word mate as like the word friend, but then also we do play on words with automate, innovate, create, all of that type of stuff. Our mascot, his name is Nate. He's a monkey because he's a primate. And you can kind of just go down the line with it.
I love it because the planning words, it's how people remember stuff usually into the story, right? Like people thinking about, like a primate and then being a mate, like all these different things is what, because people, I say this often and I'm going to keep saying it because people don't remember a lot of things that you say. They remember how you make them feel and the things that you said to make them feel that way. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's why attaching the words with an emotion, or a story or a character or any, plain words that rhyme, something that it's catchy, it's becomes something easier to remember. So
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So now I wanna ask you, what is taking most of your focus right now, like most of your attention, and why?
So previously it was building out the system and the strategy and all of that, but that's been kind of done. So right now, my main strategy or focus right now is networking, sales, bringing in new customers on a weekly basis to grow the business because, luckily, because of how much I can automate a company, I've really automated my company. So I can actually really run it with myself and a few other people. I don't need a massive team in a sense, right? So that's my main focus right now is constantly networking, constantly getting out there, showing people what this is because it's a new technology. It's unknown, right? And it's really cool when I show people what it is and their eyes light up because it's this new realm that they never imagined. And it starts to it starts to click a whole lot in their minds. And they're like, oh, wait, can we do this? Can we do that? So it's more of an educational process right now as well.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense because when you're, for me, I mean, in PR, it happens to me a lot. A lot of most business owners, even like very successful business owners, they don't know much about PR. And
Hmm.
they make their money without it, so they don't, they didn't care about it. And
Yeah.
and now like a lot of my clients are in that place that like, look, I'm just like, okay, I got to like 10 million, like I'm like at 8 figures, but like I still feel like I'm not impacting as many people as I want to. Like I want to change millions of lives, not like a couple thousand, not a couple hundred. And that's when like, look, it's I educate them. Look, it's very hard or almost impossible to gain trust at scale without PR because
Yeah.
you need like what's the image, like being able to gain that trust, like people respect you and actually stop scrolling, right? It's a tough thing, but when you add PR into the mix, things that people feel familiar with, then that's how you can really like get people to stop from cold and consider you at least, right? And that's a big thing that I have to educate people. So I completely relate with you, like that educational part when you're doing something disruptive, something new, something that, or maybe just something that people just don't have in their minds often because they just focus on other stuff. It's very important. So yeah, I get
Exactly.
it. So now I wanna ask you about do you have any advice for either business owners in general or maybe your younger self if you were to restart your journey today?
Yeah. Some of my biggest pieces. So, I mean, I've been through, successful companies. I've been through failure of companies, like just, well, yeah, like super failure of companies. And then, just and I've worked with hundreds of different clients. So I've seen the inner workings of a lot of other businesses. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I would say is like, if you bring on an investment, right? You shouldn't. Too many people look at getting an investment as like the greatest thing in the world. If I'm so scared and afraid of ever getting an investment. I've done everything, the software I've developed all by myself, all paid for like internally, no investment. Because when you get an investment, sure, you think you can scale it and you can build this cool thing, but then what happens if you don't? You know, a lot of things can go wrong and they go wrong really fast. And then you're constantly trying to pivot and you're constantly trying to figure it out. And then you just get stuck in this hole and then you end up working for someone. The whole point about being an entrepreneur is to not work for someone, right? So if, I'm not saying don't get an investment, but I'm saying just be cautious when you get an investment because at the end of the day, you're taking someone else's money and I don't care what a contract says, someone can sue you for anything. And then I would also say if you ever hear anyone talking about you behind your back, get rid of them because they spread a cancer within your organization. And I would just get rid of them right away because I made that mistake once.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you say that because I just read an article, a LinkedIn article from Jason Miller that he was talking about that. Like, if you have someone that is just that is, it was about how keeping a bad employee can be so detrimental for the culture of your company. Like, it may be because
Correct.
oh, it's my friend, even or whatever. Like, I don't wanna like what about their livelihood, but then what about your and the other people's livelihood, right? If you affect the performance of the whole team, then now it's not just one person, like you're affecting the whole team, everything, like, and that's what you want to take a bad apple out, or you want to keep it there and just make the other bad apples, make turn the other apples bad, let's say.
Exactly. And
it
liars will always be liars.
Yeah, and
They
that's
never change.
yeah, and that's something that I don't know how people go to sleep at night
Some
with that.
people do believe it or not, but yeah. So
And it's crazy to me. Like I just don't get it because for me, I do something and I'm feeling that with a client, with a partner, with a friend, with whoever or family, whatever. I'm like, damn, I need to settle this. Like I need to because I want I want to be a good person and I don't want to lie to myself too,
I
right?
agree.
Like right. So that's the thing. I don't want to like lie to myself and try to tell my stories just to justify things. So
Yeah.
and the other thing that you were saying was to like not take an investment, and for that I was reading about that. Actually, no, it was a video from Alex Hormozy. I think it was like 2 days ago or so, and he was saying that when you're starting out, that is definitely something that you should avoid, because if you don't even know about business that much, like how it makes you think that like you can, things will go wrong, like things will always go wrong, something will go wrong. And unless you have a lot of business savvy, that you come into a new venture but you already have success and you already have everything, like you've lived through things and you have a business plan, you have the right people, right? You have to be very sure that this is like is bulletproof, basically.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at Shark Tank, for example, Mark Cuban will be like, I've lost money on Shark Tank. But yet those people, they walk off Shark Tank jumping for joy because they're like, oh my God, we just solved all of our problems. No, you just acquired Mark Cuban's legal team to potentially come after you one day if, if things hit the fan, So that's the way I look at things. Because you just never know that if you bring on a powerful source such as that, they can eat you up. And they can, it's yeah. I always try and look at plan for the best, or hope for the best and plan for the worst, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I always say that too, like prepare for the worst but still praying for the best,
Yeah,
right? Like Lil Wayne says. So
yeah, and it's just it frustrates me because I came up like in college. I came through the whole entrepreneurial culture thing, and they preach get investment, like try and get an investment, and it just like didn't work. I just didn't like it. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean you did it yourself, and that's great because you've
Yeah.
been doing it, and that also is like bootstrap, right? Like that's a great adjective of like to add. It's like, hey, I did it all alone, right? Like I built it. And I have
Yeah.
nothing against people taking investments, especially like on tech, right? That you need it because it requires millions of dollars or something. That makes sense,
Yeah.
that's
But what
different.
I would recommend for that is go find I literally just met with a gentleman yesterday. Really great guy. His name was David. And what he does is he actually identifies your idea and does a whole product market fit prior to you developing your app. So he saves you millions of dollars. It's funny because like him and I were just kind of talking about this yesterday. He was saying he's like, I've worked with tons of software companies. He said more than not, I see these cheery founders. They have these grand visions, all this stuff. You get 2 years down the road, you just now finally launch your app, and then no one buys it. He's like, these people go into millions of dollars of debt. They get divorced. They go in depression. All this stuff happens, and he's like, it's sad to say, but majority of the time, that's what I see happens. But because of the service he provides, he can allow you to fail without spending millions of dollars and getting a divorce.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So I would advise if you are going to start something like that to find a cheap alternative to it to start to get the idea out there, because you just never know. You may think it's a good idea, but the rest of the world doesn't, and they may tell you it's a good idea, but the second you ask them for money for the idea, it's a whole other ball game too. So always
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
everything thinks that you have a good idea until you ask them for money, right?
Literally, yes, it happens more than not, and your friends and family will more or less tell you it's a good idea, unless you have a good friend that will tell you that it's,
That is
call you
not.
big ugly kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and that's just life, and that's why I do this podcast to kind of reiterate these points to make sure that if the people either aspiring entrepreneurs or already starting entrepreneurs and business owners, they can see these things and rethink their strategies if they are going routes that we're saying, hey, maybe you should not do this, right? That's
Yeah.
why I like doing this. So
Yeah, because you go through the honeymoon phase and then you get into realization and then you're like, oh crap, and then it just goes down. So
yeah,
I've been
so
there. So
yeah. I mean, I've been in a lot of different positions that I don't want to go there because
yeah,
we're gonna do 2 hours of podcast. So
yeah,
let's just go to the next question. That is, do you have a specific challenge that you can think of that taught you something that you consider very valuable that you would like to share with the audience?
yeah. So this happened about a year ago. So I had my marketing agency, but then went and started a different venture, and things didn't really necessarily work out. And then I had another business at a time that we were starting. And long story short, it was all just crumbling down. And me and the one business partner, we were accumulating a lot of debt, almost over $100,000. and he decided that it would be best that we just split up. So we split up, we split the clients, and the service itself was not working very well either. So we had to kind of just get these people their money back. So at the point, I owed about $50,000 in debt. I had no source of income because I had given up my marketing agency. I kind of essentially sold off the book of business. And this was literally like happened like started in the middle of September. And so I literally like nothing. I had to start over my entire life in a sense with a lot of debt. And I really, over the last, those 3 months prior, I really lost a lot of my confidence because so many things had gone wrong. I wasn't used to things going wrong. I was used to helping people and doing all that stuff with my marketing agency because that was very successful. And so I really just kind of lost my, like my
Drive.
edge with it. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was really anxious and depressed. And so I kind of like chalk it up to being like kind of my rock bottom. And in October, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get out of this. So I went on to Upwork and I just made a pact myself to submit proposals for an hour every single day. And I effectively rebuilt the entire agency in 90 days and did $100,000 in sales in 90 days, which is the fastest I've ever done that much sales in that short amount of time. Got myself out of debt, was able to, move, do what I want to do. I was able to continue doing that for a few more months. And that's where I was able to build up enough cash to develop Marketing Mate, the software that I wanted to do. So, I mean, it regained my confidence a lot because now I know that, if you stay consistent with something, you'll get through it, and yeah, it's just, you have to just keep being consistent.
Yeah, that's super powerful. And I appreciate you being vulnerable with me and the audience. And
Yeah.
it's big because just to like the audience know, like I've been in a similar situation too. Like no, I didn't have to split. It was my company, but it was more like a fulfillment partner. And then he wasn't doing it. So then I had to like thousands and thousands of dollars to pay. Like not only I pay him, he still doesn't want to give me the money back, so that we have like a legal case and stuff going on, and we have other stuff going there. But then, like, meanwhile, I've been paying out of my own pocket to my new team that I built to then like fulfill those things to even do it better, right? And it in a way, like, yeah, it's it's tough, and I lost, like, I was like, shit, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I was super depressed. I was just broken. Like I was like, I never in my life felt broken. Never.
Same.
And it was like, because I'm always felt special. I felt like I love winning. I'm a winner. I'm a competitive guy. Like, and that
You lost
destroyed
hard
my
for the first time.
right.
Yeah.
And that's why I
Exactly what I
relate a
went
lot.
through.
I relate a lot to that. And I'm glad that you were able to bounce back. I was able to bounce back too. And I'm still kind of like in the restructure agreements that I did, right? And I'm dealing with those things. But my clients, I was transparent with them. And I
Same.
was like, hey, this happened. Don't worry, I'll make it right for you. And I
Yeah.
just went to work like a madman. And then thankfully, I have a good support group too. That, between my girlfriend, between my friends, between people like Jason Miller that always has my back, like with teaching me and helping me in many ways, connecting me with the right people and everything, moving pieces a lot to help me succeed. And that it's because of networking, because of leading with value with people, because of being honest. And those are pretty key points that we touch in this episode.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the times, these entrepreneurs you see on social media, they don't necessarily touch on all the struggles that they actually went through. They try and just show off this number, and really it's like it's really not always what it seems to be, and they don't show the bad parts of it. But I think it's important to show the bad parts, because if you can overcome the bad parts, then you can kind of overcome anything. Like if I ever come into any type of issue, I know for a fact that, like, okay, give me 30 days. Like, I'm not even worried. I could lose sleep over something and won't even worry now, because I know I have the confidence back again.
Yeah. And that's big. And for me, it's like it's very similar, and it's an everyday battle, right? It's not like, oh, I gain my confidence back and I can't lose it, right? Like there's always
Yeah,
like gonna
there's
be
low
things,
days.
but the fact that you know that you survived worse things already, right? Those things
Yeah.
are like, oh, come on, like you're being worse. Come on, you got this. Like,
Yeah.
let's do
I got
it.
hit with a massive tax bill on Monday, and that really dragged me down a lot. But I wake up on Tuesday, I'm like, all right, well, let's we have it, we'll pay it, we'll make it back. So we'll be good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and for that, I mean, I got one of my clients, David A. Perez, that he helps hyper growth companies to with tax strategies, so you don't have to pay
There
that.
we go.
So I'm gonna connect you with him then.
All right, I could use that right
Yeah,
now.
because you shouldn't be paying that, man. So I got you. Like I got you.
Cool,
And
man.
anybody else, that sees it, just
Yeah,
hit
there
me
we
up.
go.
So let's just kind of just wrap this up. First, like if there's is there any like last thing that like the biggest takeaway that you think based on the conversation that you want to leave the audience with, maybe something that you haven't mentioned yet? Maybe
Um,
reiterate something that you already said
I
and
would
you want
I
to
would
punch in.
say, just stay consistent with what you're doing. I mean, I'm honest, like there are things that I don't stay consistent with all the time as I should, but when it comes to like, starting your business, I mean, I know so many people that say they're going to start a business, they don't, and 3 months down the road, they still don't say they don't start a business. But in that 3 months, you could have had a business and you could have kept going. And even if you start a business in the first 6 months, they're not fruitful enough. Doesn't mean the next 6 months can't be, So I've been doing this stuff since I was like 19, since before like doing a digital media was like cool thing to do. And because
Before
I
the
always just
boom.
wanted to. Yeah. And, also I hate the whole side hustle mentality too. Like, and look, I get start a side hustle. If you can make extra money, that's great. But if you're gonna start a side hustle to start a business and like to like make it your full-time income. Like, don't try and start 5 side hustles. I know everyone says diversify, all that stuff. Like, don't listen to everything on the internet. And like, don't listen to these guys who are literally teaching and then they're just reading 2 weeks ahead of material and then just reiterating it back to you. That's what a lot of teachers do. Um, and I also, yeah, I could keep going on, but just don't listen to everything you see on the internet. Trust your gut, and find some good mentors and coaches.
Yeah. So two things that I have from that I learned from Alex Hormozy is first the when you say like, oh, like many people have multiple streams, like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income or whatever, but then if you look back at their story, they had that one thing
One, you got to create
that
a
they
cash
took
flow.
up, and then after you create, you have the attention, you have the success, now you have the influence, you have the community, whatever. Now you can sell whatever because you have a lot of people looking at you as the authority on something. So then everything else that you do after that, then it's good, it's easy because you
Exactly.
already are proving yourself in something.
You
So
need to
that's
start your printing press first, and then you can go out to different side gigs. Is
definitely.
what I think.
Yeah, that's kind of like what and another thing that I wanted to hammer to, and then Alex Hormozy, I mean, I consume
I
a lot of
love
his
Alex
content.
Ramosi. I agree with a lot of the things he says, and I really like his viewpoints on things.
Yeah, and he says that like when you're saying like about like the business, like the side hustle, first, there's two things. It's like if you're not willing to do it forever, then don't do it for a day, right? And then the other thing
Yes.
is that do when you're focusing on a venture that you're doing, like don't what was the thing that like you said, like the like listening to everybody, right? Like just kind of like make sure that you surround yourself with the right people and the people that you trust, and then just like commit to that. And then that's the big point that I was missing, which is he says if you're willing to wait 12 months for something to become fruitful, you'll make a lot of money. If you're
Yes.
willing to wait a decade, then you'll like be able to do like millions of dollars. And then if you're willing to wait a lifetime, you can actually change the world. And that's
Exactly.
something very powerful that I think it goes along the lines of what you were sharing.
I completely agree. And yeah, I really agree with a lot of what he says too in a lot of his books. I like the way he thinks because it's very realistic in that sense, Like another thing, I do all my work. I wake up at 7:30, right? And I have my nice little basic morning routine. I start working at 8:30, but I do all my work at like 10 to 2 in the morning, right? 10 at night to 2 in the morning. I don't like to wake up at 5 a.m. You know, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. Why do I have to wake up at 5 a.m. to do work in the morning? Why can't I just do it at night? You know, so I think that's another just like little nuance that, you know, just don't listen to everything. You can do what you want.
I personally, I wake up around 4:30 to 5, but I don't have an alarm. I don't have anything. I do
Just
it because
naturally.
that I love mornings.
See,
But
I love
then
night.
some days I also like, and I've noticed this happens to me quite often. It's like I love morning, but then like sometimes I run out of battery after lunch. Then I either like chill or take a nap or something, and then I work until night, right? And it's like, oh, until like 8 something, and then after then, like I like going to bed like not later than like 10 p.m. And then like 9 for 10 is like my window. I never want to pass 10, ideally 9. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that works for me. Like, and that doesn't necessarily works for everybody, but that's just fine what works for you and what makes you like, be the most efficient, that you feel happy. And that's it. Because if you're gonna work from home and you want to work on your own terms, then just pick something that works for you. And then I synchronize with my girlfriend too to try to be together too. So
no, 100%. And I completely agree with you.
Perfect. So yeah, I know there's gonna be people gonna be look. That conversation was great. He seems like he knows what he's doing with software. So how can people find you?
Yeah, my website is marketingmate.com. My phone number is 878-888-MATE, which is just 6283. And then the email is just james@marketingmate.com.
Perfect. And they can text you to that number, right?
Yeah, you can text that number, the word demo, and it'll give you a whole live demo. You can text the word call and it'll automatically book a call with me.
Perfect. So they can get a taste, right, of the experience of what you will get too if you work with it.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I think this was a very valuable conversation. I think we touched on very good points. It was dynamic. I think it's pretty valuable stuff, and I hope that at least few people can find value in this. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks, man.
Thanks for taking the time. And so this was James and James, because that's my name too, but I go by Foo. And this is James and James signing off.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Foo with your host, Foo. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.